Have you ever heard when mama's happy, everybody's happy? Well, today we're looking at when mom is right, everybody's happy. I want you to think about your worst day. I'm figuring this is mama's listen. What's your worst day? Think about it. Overextended, not sleeping well. You feel irritation. And when you even look at your spouse, you just feel bugged about it. Kids are verbally and physically fighting. Stop. You just want it all to stop. Nobody wants to live like that. I want you to grab a pencil today because we're going to hack into three important topics that create unity, laughter, and they keep the romance going. So you grabbing that pencil? If you're in the car, look and see which podcast this is. I think it is 83, and you can come back to it and write these things down. So the first thing I want you to think about, it's hard being a mom, isn't it? It's a 24/7 responsibility. There's always stuff going on. Typically, you're the main person responsible for everything kids. And of course, dad, if he's a decent kind of guy, steps in and helps also because his family is number one, right? He steps in and helps. But often moms, they're running the show when it comes to everything with the children. And it's hard. And sometimes we need to stop and refuel, right? But one of the main things that happens in most every family between mom and dad and between the kids is the problem of miscommunication. Do you know that we listen and hear things in the same way that we think? So if somebody thinks a certain way, they think everybody's out to get them, then they think whatever you say that you're out to get them. If somebody thinks, oh, that everyone is so sweet and kind, then whatever is said, they think it is sweet and kind. They just don't even know whenever you say something mean to them. But we see the world as we think it. Yeah. So let's look at communications because everybody communicates differently. I want you to think about you and think about your spouse. What's the biggest difference you think about right away? What are you thinking? What are you saying in your head? It might be that one's a real people person, loves to be with everybody, talking in a group, and then the other feels like a wallflower. They don't feel noticed. They really don't want anyone to notice them. They're going to stand around. But guess what? They're a great listener. They are the best listeners. The other person who's that people person, they're out there talking. They're great at making conversation, but they might not be so good at listening, right? So we all communicate differently. The people who talk all the time, they don't realize that they're not listening enough. And the people who never talk and open up, they're always closed up. They don't realize they need to open up a little. Nobody can read your mind. Nobody can make you happy if they don't know what you want and what you need. So we all communicate differently. Some are direct. They tell you just like it is. They hurt your feelings sometimes. Yes, they do. But then others are so indirect. There again, you don't even know what they're feeling. This goes for your husband or your wife or for your kids. How about that person in the family is loud all the time? They're loud and they are fast. They're always on the move. They've got to have something to do. And then there's the other children who are quiet and they might sit to the side and they're drawing or coloring or watching TV quietly. Yeah, we all communicate differently. And when we're fast, we have trouble listening to that person who's talking very slowly as they think about what they're saying. Whenever somebody's really quiet, we're like, speak up, I can't hear you. We also have an expectancy when it comes to communication that we all think the same way. Yeah, think about that. Do you think your spouse, do you assume he knows what you're thinking? Do you assume he should know what you're thinking? Oh my gosh, y'all. This is gigantic that we all communicate differently. And we all have different needs, right? Number two, negative stuff gets more attention, right, moms? When the kids are misbehaving, it gets more attention. When dad comes in, he gets more attention when he's not behaving well. Yeah, we could do without that, right? But negative stuff gets more attention. Think about social media. Well, we do love all the adorable things on there, don't we? We do love seeing the pictures of other families and their vacations and what's going on. But also, there's negativity. And sometimes we take negativity to be truth. But these days people will do anything to get attention. Picture that child who will be so, so bad to get attention. Well, that's what people do on social media. But think about the TV shows. It shows the children being cocky, disrespectful, not good to each other. They make the parents look stupid sometimes. Have you noticed that? Well, negative stuff gets the most attention. We want to find the beauty in our family. We want to find the beauty in our marriage. So we want to isolate and pay attention and figure out what those negative things are. My mom always said, you are just like the five people that you hang around with all the time. Are they positive? Are they helpful? Are they kind? Or are they always getting you in trouble? Yeah, you got to pay attention to those things. Um, so negative stuff gets more attention, and the TV is the same way. Negative commercials, negative news, negative children, fussy, disrespectful, it gets your attention. Identify and focus on the best qualities. So whenever you are trying to find the beauty and enjoy your life, you want to find the good qualities in your spouse. You want to find the good qualities in your kids. You get more of what you focus on. You get more of what you focus on. Watch your words. Make sure that you're being respectful, a tone of voice, body language, being respectful, and then you get respect. This brings a lot of peace into the home. And sometimes when we're having trouble with our kids and it's causing a lot of trouble and hardship, we have to stop and go, does either me or my spouse act like that? Do like that? What you will find out is your kids are acting just like you or your spouse. They emulate. That's what they do. They're learning and they emulate. So it really puts a lot of pressure on you because, you got to get it together if you want your kids to have it together. Turn negative statements into positive statements for kids. When we're getting after kids, we're always like, stop running, stop hitting your brother, stop yelling, stop picking on your sister. Um, we may say things like, you're always getting in trouble at school. Why can't you do better? Why can't you make better grades? Why don't you have friends? Like, we say things to our kids, not thinking about we're disrespecting them or putting them down, or um, we have to watch our words. I think I said that a minute ago. Turn negative statements into positive statements. So instead of saying, stop running down the hall, you say, hey, stop and walk. That's all you say, short. Stop and walk. When they're talking in somewhere they're not supposed to be talking in a big group of people, maybe like at church or something like that, and you're like, shh. I know so many people, when they're telling the children not to talk, they say out loud, hey, you need to stop talking. And you can hear them. They're talking. It's like emulate, demonstrate what you want from the kids. With the different personality styles with the kids, certain kids who are very strong-minded, when you are telling them what to do, and yeah, I know as a parent, we do tell our kids what to do, but what do you do when that's not working? You're telling your child what to do, and they're just defiant and they're not going to listen. That's a particular personality style. And if you understand that instead of telling them what to do, and I understand that you should be able to do that, and you can keep doing that if you want, but it might not work so good. Um, you can say, okay, I'll tell you what, you can do this or you could do this. Only give two choices. And then they have to listen. But it's like, I tell you what, I understand. I hear what you're saying. So you could do this or you can do this. But given the two choices, when they have a choice, they'll pick one. Now, I have worked with kids who, given the choice, they look at me, yeah, a little defiantly, and then they pick a third thing. And I'm like, no, that's not a choice. And you have to stay on them. As long as you're consistent, eventually they know that you mean they have a choice. And if they don't take that choice, then I make another choice for them. Um, yeah. I'm loving, I'm kind, but I'm consistent. And kids got to be respectful so that we can have joy in our own home. So turn negative statements into positive things. Let them know what you want them to do. Give them choices instead. And all these things go with our spouses and our kids. And the truth is, to have a happy home, mom and dad got to get along. And I hope you listen to some of my other podcasts right around this because I'm talking about blended families and keeping the romance in your family. That goes for everybody. And so hopefully you listen to some of those. All right. So what are some things that we deal with that is negative stuff in our families? Tempers. When somebody's having a temper tantrum, your spouse or your kids, pause before responding. Express your feelings, how you feel about it, and use the word I. So, tempers, pause before responding because typically we want to respond in the same manner that they have, whether it's a spouse or a kid. And we want to pause and think about what we're saying, how we're saying it, and we want to do better than them. Next one is pouting. If you have someone in your house who always tends to pout and they're withdrawn, they really do want to talk about whatever it is. You want to encourage them to talk about it and then mostly listen, maybe give a little nod of your head or a little this and that, but mostly listen. They just need you to listen to them. And I can remember when I first got married and my husband would say, "Hey, what's the matter?" And I would say, "Nothing." And he started to know that when I said nothing, 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 no matter what the tone of voice I said nothing with, there was something the matter. And until he pulled it out of me and I talked about it, it didn't go away from me. Now, some people maybe they can tuck it back somewhere, but I was not able to do that. So he learned if I was pouting or withdrawn. It wasn't nothing, and that he should pull it out of me and listen and talk. That's important. So when somebody's pouting or withdrawn, it might be important to have a little empathy and see what it is. This is just how they deal with things. It's nothing against you, but you just want peace in your home. Next one is shouting. When somebody is shouting, you want to shout. It becomes a shouting match. You want to keep peace in your home. Agree to come back later when you're calmer. You know, there's no use arguing with a brick wall. Have you ever heard that? So if you have a spouse or you are the spouse that like once you get something in your head, you're not going to change your mind. You're not really listening to the other person. It becomes a shouting match. Learn to agree and come back to it later when you're calmer. That works a lot. The next one is too expected. Are we as a spouse too expected? Do you know we expect our spouse to think and do just like us? We expect our kids to like the same things. Maybe we're going to be a chemist, and so we expect our kid to like chemistry and science. Maybe we're a musician, so we expect our kids to like music. Maybe we're a doctor, and we expect our children to be doctors or school teachers or whatever. Everybody's different. And we can't be expectant and expect them to be just like us. That's a divider right away when you expect your spouse to like everything you do or your kids to act and be just like you. And that's why it's important to learn the behavior styles and start to understand how we all behave differently. Once you do, it's like a gigantic window that opens up. You're like, how can we not know this? I think they should teach it in the schools. They don't. And yeah, I think they should teach it in the schools. It's really important. Learning the behavior styles. Let's see, the next one is being too expectant. Oops, that was it. I just did that one. E is self-centered. Now, this is a hard one because there's different reasons we're self-centered. A lot of it is there again, personality style, behavior style, like everything's about me. But I can remember a day when as a teenager and a kid, everything kind of was about me. Like my parents had two kids and everything was about us. Or we thought so anyway. But then I had kids of my own. And soon as I had kids of my own, everything that was about me wasn't about me so much anymore. And to be honest, when I first got married, it was about pleasing my spouse and doing for him and having fun and laughing and doing things together and learning to run our house together. Um, all those kind of things. But some people are self-centered and they stay that way. It can be an only child syndrome because everything was about them. They got everything they wanted. They didn't have to work for it. Parents fixed everything for them. Um, they got to do everything they wanted and have the best of everything. Yeah. And so if we come from a family, well, that was great. You got to have everything you wanted and everything was about you, but it's not now. If you're married, it's everything's not about you. And if you have kids, boy, it's not about you, it's about your kids. So it's learning to find balance, isn't it? We have to have a little self-preservation, take a little time out for ourselves, fill our cup. Sometimes as moms, we feel self-centered if we take time out for ourselves. But the truth is, if you don't take time out for yourself and fill your own cup, because nobody else is probably going to do it, fill your own cup, figure out what you need. It might be a hobby, lunch with a friend, a quiet bubble bath, just some time watching HGTV. That's my favorite. To refuel. If you don't refuel and fill your cup, then you can't deal with everything else. And moms have such a giant responsibility. You've got to share that with your spouse, get a little help, and take time for yourself. And sometimes we're thinking, when am I going to take time for myself? But the self-centered person, they don't pay any mind to that. They're so stuck on themselves, they don't think about anybody else. Everything's about them. Well, one is practice empathy. If you have a tendency to only think about your needs, what you want, um, practice empathy. Start to empathize and think about your spouse. Keep a little peace there. Yeah, that's a big one. Second, put yourself in their shoes. Yeah, so if you're self-centered, stop and think, what does life look like in the middle, wearing their shoes? Do they work all day? What kind of people do they deal with? Is there a lot of stress and pressure? That might be if you're working a job and sometimes both spouses work. But if mom is at home with the kids, if the kids aren't getting along, and honestly, you know what? Sometimes when you're home all day, you get a little bored. I always had my hobbies to do. So sometimes you get a little bored, but it's important not to be self-centered and to be thoughtful of everyone. And it happens with our spouse, it happens with us, and sometimes it happens with our children. So the last one is impatience. Sometimes we have to deal with impatience. If you are impatient, learn to pause. I get impatient if I'm in a hurry or I got to get things done. I'm usually pretty patient with people. I'm impatient with technology or any kind of stuff I have to deal with where I have to do phone calls or uh, learn a new technology or something like that. But I'm usually patient with people. But when people are impatient with people, you have to take a breath, pause. Everybody does things differently. You want to learn to respect your differences. Do you see where I kind of going with this on a lot of different podcasts? We have to learn to understand our differences and why we act differently and why we expect different things. And when we learn, it's called education, personal growth, things can get better. Happy couples equal happier kids. Happy moms. What was the title on this? It was When Mom is Right, Everybody's Happy. Now, that might not mean when mom is right, like she's right. It means when she's got her stuff together, right? When mom is right, she's got her stuff together, everybody's happy. And that brings me to the last area, three, count your blessings. So often we count everything we don't have, what we want, what everybody isn't. We start thinking nobody's good enough. My marriage isn't good enough. My kids are brats. No, count your blessings. Change your mindset. Change your thoughts. Refocus your thoughts and your words on what you want in life. Use positive words. Say things that you believe to be true. Maybe even sometimes things you want to believe to be true. All right, refocus your thoughts and your words. Count your blessings. Focus on what's good. There is something good. There's always something good. There's always a bright side, even in the darkest places if you hunt. Show appreciation to one another. Life is 10% of what happens to you and 90% of how you react to it. Yes. Life is 10%, only 10% of what happens to you. It feels like more sometimes, but it is actually 90% of how you react to it. Happy couples equal happier kids. When mom is right, she's got her head on straight, things are rolling along, everything goes better. Learn to pause and choose how you react. I hope you'll visit me, Connie Durham, your host of The Extraordinary Marriage, at theextraordinarymarriage.com. There's all kinds of goodies to help you find your best life.